Well, whilst it was playing, Bren texted in and said, sweet. Very, absolutely. Do you read me from Colin Carr to open the G-Spot this evening? That track was suggested to me by Donal Gallagher, Rory's brother, whom I was chatting to on Saturday evening. And you know what? I even remembered to press record. Have a listen. So I'd just like to say welcome back to Off the Record to Donal Gallagher. Donal, it's been about 5 years since you were on the show with us. And the last time you were on, we were talking, I asked you a question about what was left in the vaults from Rory's recorded output. And what you know, there is another live album due to be released.
Yeah, for Record Store Day, yeah, it's vinyl. Yes, it's from a French radio programme. And
that was recorded back in 1974?
Yes. I mean, as I think I've stated before, that the one thing that we're not short of is live recordings. And in fact, this one was picked up by Daniel, our son, who now works on the Rory projects as well, and he had located that and went ahead with the French people, and thus the French Connection title. But it's specifically for Record Store Day, rather than being an official full album release. It's just a very limited edition for Record Store Day.
But to go back to Rory's back catalogue, all the albums have been re-released and reissued, most on new 180-gram vinyl, the rest on CD. And it did my heart good to go into Tower Records in Dublin recently to see the full display of Rory albums back in the stores again. And the fact that back in March, Rory had 15 albums back in the top 30, and Irish Tour 74 was at number 1. An amazing achievement.
Yeah, as somebody pointed out to me, it was Ed Sheeran on his singles, but it's Rory, it's albums. No, it was a thrill to see that, and I've literally just come back from Utrecht from this a big, huge record fair, essentially vinyl, and I'm just staggered at the amount of European fans and who were coming up with Rory vinyls or bringing in their old vinyls of Rory's and stuff, and even kids. So I think it's a real buzz that vinyl has really helped, underscore and heighten something, particularly artists like Rory, that were very much, Rory made every record he made, he never thought it as a CD. It was, even the last few albums, he just said, don't confuse me about CD, I'm making an album here.
Yeah.
And the artwork has to be that size, and everything is relative to that.
Absolutely, and I suppose the whole thing is back when Rory was making albums like that, people made albums and they tracked albums out as, that'll be side 1, track 1, that'll be the one that closes side 2, and there was a real skill to it.
Oh yeah, and I mean, certainly when cassette got involved, no one went down and said, "Oh, I'm making a new cassette."
Yeah.
Or 8-track for that matter. I mean, and that used to know Rory because with 8-tracks, it used to companies would come along and purely for timing purposes, so that the silver foil changed. You'd 4 different tracks that it jumped down through. So
yeah.
They'd actually retime it. He'd go ballistic if the timing got changed just to suit the format. I know. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. But I think that's very much the record companies hoisted that on people that never mind the quality, feel the width.
Yeah.
Attitude.
Yeah. They didn't look at the artistic end of it at all. It was a product.
Yeah. And then when stuff is reissued, they'd want to fill it up. Oh, well, all these extra bonus tracks. And of course, what a lot of bands were doing was giving material to the record company that they didn't own, or they shouldn't have owned in the first place. The record company were then getting it as bonus tracks.
Yeah. You find a lot of I found over the years, when albums have been remastered and reissued on CD, the bonus tracks tend to be sometimes, how many versions of one particular song, how many takes do you want to hear of it? Whereas sometimes you might get, a BBC session thrown in, or 2 tracks that were never released before, As with the re-releases on Rory with the CDs, we got tracks that we hadn't had before on the albums that didn't make the cut at the time.
Yeah, well, Rory always made more than he needed for the album. That was the problem. In fact, in trying to remember, I think it was Defender, that album, and he couldn't decide which 2 tracks or 3 tracks to leave off the album. That he felt there was so much a part of the album. So he actually, and he wasn't a singles person. To satisfy him in the end, they had to make an EP and include it as the bonus tracks as part of the album. His vinyl. It was either that or go up to a double vinyl, which he didn't want to do. So it's I suppose you have to compromise some one way or the other, you know. But they were as valid as the other tracks in the album, as far as he was concerned.
So the other thing that occurred recently was Fender here in Dublin. Their boardroom is now the Rory Gallagher boardroom. That must have been nice.
Indeed. Very nice, and a real honour for them to do and get. But and it was nice to see, and it was ironic that Fender, or the whole thing had come full circle, that Fender California, because it was always such a Californian brand, aims that they have place in Dublin at this point, you know.
I thought it was a nice touch, So,
yeah.
in regards to Rory and his music, you know, your job still goes on. As you say, you know, you're trotting around the keeping the flag flying, and as you say, the French Connection is a one-off special for Record Store Day. And I asked you this question last time you were with me, and that is, you know, is there other things in the vault? Are you looking at other things to be released?
Well, in recent times, yes, is the short answer. But just to underline that, it's since the changeover to Universal Music and the new people we're dealing with, and the whole strategy that we wanted to happen, which was to actually get all the tapes that we had in storage and digitize them, because like a lot of things, I mean, the positive side of digitization into digital music is that you can collect all this music and see what's there to begin with, because if you put a tape on it, it might snap or you destroy it forever. You have to be very cautious. So we never wanted to risk some of the tapes, but in the hands of these very professional people who are doing it, they're digitizing absolutely every tape we have of Rory's, and that's already thrown up some quite amazing results. I have to again credit Daniel on that part, because he's got the appetite to listen through absolutely every version and is able to note the differences, or, you know, in certain cases you get, I never knew Rory did an acoustic version of that track. And I'll say, well, God, I never did. But it's a process we're going through as we speak, basically. And I'm quite surprised what it's already thrown up in the mix. Excuse the pun. But there we go. And yes, we certainly are looking at extra tracks that are there.
Well, that's something to look forward to. That is definitely something to look forward to.
A lot of the notations on boxes that engineers made didn't account for pieces in between or different takes or try-ons. It only, what was logged down in those were only the specific tracks that were being worked on. So it's part of the discovery with digitization.
So at least the whole kit and caboodle is going to be digitized and preserved. Because I remember, again, when the last time we talked, you were saying that Daniel was spending his time going through boxes and bits of this and bits of that. So it'll be, as you say, it might all get to be sorted at some stage soon.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few gems turned up, I must say, and thank Daniel for that, because he does have... the difference being is that Dan, being a musician, a guitarist, that he has a completely different take, whereas I don't have that talent so he's able to pick out things from a musician's point of view that I wouldn't readily spot.
Right. So, who knows then, maybe in the near future, to go along with all the back catalogue that's been re-released and put back in the record shops, there might be a new album there to be seen as well.
Yeah, I mean, yes, the one's been worked on, put it that way.
Excellent, excellent. I won't push you too far on it, Donal. You've whetted appetites as it is.
All being well.
You've whetted appetites as it is. Donal, I won't hold you in. Listen, thanks for taking the call and for chatting to us. We will have to get together next time you're in Dublin. We keep seemingly missing each other, which is a shame. And I suppose you will be over in Ballyshannon this year.
I will indeed. Yeah, it's always a pleasure, Pat, to be on the programme anytime.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, we will get that point.
We will at some stage. Listen, you take care of yourself.
Thank you very much, Pat.
No problem, Donal. Thanks very much.